Great, thank you so much. All right, and I'm sharing my screen. Does it look good there? Can everybody see the screen? All right. Okay, great.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending this evening. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to present policies and regulations from the Sustainability Update project related specifically to the built environment and community design, and gather feedback and answer questions. My name is Daisy Allen. I'm a senior planner in the newly formed Community Development and Infrastructure Department, which is a merger of the Planning and Public Works departments. Annie Murphy, another senior planner involved on the project, will be presenting with me tonight. Stephanie Hansen, Natisha Williams, and Anais Schenk from our team are also on the call and available to answer questions as needed. There is no live Spanish translation available for tonight's meeting, but there will be a translation of the slides that will be made available on the project website. So before we get started with the meeting agenda, here is some logistical information. Today's meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the project website. We'll have a 40-minute presentation followed by Q&A for the remainder of the meeting time. If you have access to a computer with a microphone, you can watch, listen, and provide comments through your computer using the Teams meeting link. If you do not have access to a computer with a microphone and wish to ask a question or make a comment, you must call in by dialing 916-318-9542. When prompted, enter conference ID 207-752-609#. If you are participating by phone, you must also mute the sound on your computer. All participants are currently muted, and the meeting chat is disabled during the presentation. Please remain muted and hold your questions until the end of the presentation. If you have a comment about something specific that we cover on the slides, we can pull the slides back up to guide our discussion. At the end of the presentation, we'll explain how to ask questions and make comments. So for today's presentation, we will be reviewing the overall development framework for Santa Cruz County, and then we'll get into the details of proposed policy and regulatory changes for residential and for non-residential development. We'll then review policies and regulations particular to development in certain geographic areas. Finally, we'll explain how the topic of environmental justice is incorporated into the county's updated policies for development. We'll also discuss the project schedule and different ways to participate, and then we'll open the meeting up for comments. Just a note that if you are looking for an overview of the entire Sustainability Update project, you can access the recordings of our 2 project overview presentations on the project website. So what do we mean when we say built environment? The built environment is, broadly speaking, the areas of our community that are developed with buildings, roads, and infrastructure. In this presentation, we will be focused on policies and standards related to buildings and building sites. Meeting number 3 on April 5th, which is next week, will cover roadways, and meeting number 4 on April 12th will cover infrastructure and utilities. So please attend those meetings if you are interested in those topics. In terms of the built environment, Chapter 2 of the general plan has been renamed from land use to built environment. In this chapter, you can find policies regarding the county's overall development framework, as well as policies for residential, commercial, and industrial development, and for building design generally. Chapter 2 provides the main policy basis for the built environment in Santa Cruz County. There are also several policies related to buildings in Chapters 5 and 7. In Chapter 5, there are policies for buildings on agricultural properties, and in Chapter 7, there are policies for buildings on parks and public facilities properties. The County Code implements the policies of the general plan. The County Code Chapter 1310 regulates which land uses and building types we allow in each zone district, and provides development standards, such as building height, that dictate what form buildings may take. County Code Chapter 1311 provides design standards and requires site development permits and design review for certain project types. This code chapter is linked closely to the new county design guidelines, which provide best practices for the design of buildings and sites that support sustainable and context-appropriate infill development. The county's existing development pattern is shaped by the natural setting of hills, ocean, and creeks. Urban development exists primarily along the coast in the Live Oak, Soquel, and Aptos planning areas. The county's overall development framework aims to concentrate further development of the built environment within our existing urban area, preserving natural resources in our rural area. This development pattern makes efficient use of existing urban land in order to reduce the need to expand urban services or infrastructure beyond the urban and rural services lines, which have been in place since the passage of Measure J in the 1970s. The Sustainability Update project would not change the location of these lines, but would continue to reinforce their importance with built environment policies and regulations that are different inside and outside these lines. The map on this slide indicates the county's central coastal urban area, spanning from Live Oak to Rio Del Mar, with the urban services line indicated in blue. Soquel Drive is the dominant commercial corridor with a series of employment and commercial centers surrounded by residential neighborhoods. In Live Oak, commercial centers and residential neighborhoods are shaped by an intersecting pattern of roadways that lead to the coast and to destinations in the cities of Santa Cruz and Capitola. The Sustainability Update plans to accommodate growth primarily around these key corridors, with multimodal corridors indicated in blue and main streets indicated in pink on this slide. This development framework allows for coordinated development of the built environment with improvements to transportation infrastructure that can support development. Quarter-mile buffers are shown in purple on this map around these key corridors. These buffer areas represent focused growth areas where higher density development may be appropriate due to proximity to infrastructure and services. However, note that this is a conceptual map and the Sustainability Update does not include any special policies or regulations that apply inside or outside these purple buffer areas. Proposals for development on any specific parcel would be subject to analysis of the appropriateness of the proposed development given the surrounding neighborhood and infrastructure and environmental context. The Sustainability Update development framework also aims for services and amenities to be located within a 15-minute walk from home for urban county residents. This means that it may be appropriate to locate new neighborhood-serving commercial and public facilities developments within existing neighborhoods where these resources do not currently exist. Again, any proposal for rezoning or development on a specific parcel would be subject to analysis for that parcel given the context. Okay, so now Annie is going to talk a little bit about our policies for residential development.
Thank you, Daisy. Santa Cruz County, like much of California, faces a housing crisis, both in terms of supply and affordability. Addressing the housing crisis is key to ensure a sustainable, livable, and equitable future for our community. Over the past 30 years, policies and zoning standards have largely favored the construction of single-family dwellings on large lots, and very few multifamily housing units have been built. Single-family dwellings are increasingly out of reach to all but the wealthiest residents. In 2017, only 16% of homes were affordable to moderate-income households, and this has worsened in recent years. Single-family dwellings on standard-sized lots also limit the housing supply as they require a large area of land per dwelling, further driving up costs. Currently in the county, there's also a mismatch between the size of dwellings and household size. While 26% of households in our community are one-person households, only 17% of the units are one-bedroom unit or studios. To address this housing crisis, new policies support more housing choices to ensure housing is available to all residents including all household sizes and income levels. In particular, the county will continue to support accessory dwelling units and will also support small lot single-family homes, missing middle housing types such as townhouses, duplexes, and triplexes, and apartments and multifamily projects. An additional goal is to support infill housing, which is additional housing units within existing neighborhoods and in urban areas where services are available. This will be accomplished by ensuring that policies, development standards, and project reviews support economically viable multifamily projects. New policies also support the development of higher density housing projects with compact units and more overall floor area on a site, or higher building intensity, in areas near transit and services. These compact units are more affordable by design for small households. Policies supporting infill development in urban areas also ensure the continued preservation of open space and natural resources, support walkable neighborhoods, and help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. An additional goal is to ensure that the county can meet our regional housing needs allocation, also referred to as RHNA, which is the total number of housing units and affordable units our county must plan for in our next housing element cycle. We expect this RHNA number to increase by 2 to 3 times over our previous requirements. The county establishes the allowable number of housing units per acre on residential land, or residential density, by designated land in urban areas as very low, low, medium, and high density. Allowable density in each parcel is determined by the implementing zone district, which establishes the minimum land area required per unit. Lower density ranges apply in our rural areas, which help to preserve rural character and natural resources. This table is only showing our urban land use designations, and we are not proposing any substantive changes to rural densities or development standards. Our current density ranges for urban areas are very low compared with other communities, and they currently top out at 17.4 units per acre in our urban high density designation. This discourages the construction of more affordable multifamily housing options such as apartments and smaller units, and further constrains the potential for housing that meets community needs. In comparison, the city of Santa Cruz supports densities of 30 to 55 units per acre in their high density zones. The county is proposing several changes to urban residential density to support infill development and multifamily housing. One change is to use the entire parcel area to determine allowable density instead of first deducting unbuildable areas such as rights of way. This would result in a slight increase in the number of units allowed in some parcels in urban areas, while continuing to protect environmental resources such as repairing corridors. To address the missing higher density range for residential development, we will also be creating a new urban high flex land use designation highlighted in yellow, and a corresponding new res flex zone district with densities up to 45 units per acre. A primary strategy of addressing the housing crisis is to support the development of a variety of housing choices, increasing the number of housing units and expanding the types of housing available. The county is particularly lacking smaller units for singles, seniors, and students, as well as other multifamily housing options. One new category is small lot single family. The county is allowing smaller single family lot sizes with compact residences. The photo in the upper left shows an example of this housing type. Missing middle housing types, such as townhouses, duplexes, and small apartment buildings, increase housing choices for the community at more affordable price points. Thoughtfully designed and at an appropriate scale, missing middle housing can blend into existing residential neighborhoods and contribute to neighborhood character. In the upper right, you see a small apartment building within a residential neighborhood. There is also the need for multifamily housing at various densities throughout the county, including apartments and condos. Pippin Orchards on the lower right is a recent example of an affordable apartment project in Watsonville. Policies and regulations will also support higher density projects in areas near transit and urban services. The photo on the lower left shows senior apartments in Santa Clara, which provide compact housing units and is built at a density of 57 units per acre. To support the development of compact units and housing that is more affordable by design, as mentioned, the county is creating a new ResFlex zone district. This district is a tool that provides an efficient use of land, allowing more housing units to be provided within the limited land available in the urban area. Since less land is required per unit and development standards encourage compact unit sizes, such units are generally more affordable. These units would be appropriate near and along key corridors where transit and services are available, or located near major employment centers such as Dominican and near colleges, including Cabrillo. The zone district provides a new higher density range of 22 to 45 units per acre. Based on recent housing projects, the county expects that most applications from private developers will be at the lower end of this density range, likely 25 units or less per acre. This zone district will also encourage 100% affordable projects at higher densities that would provide affordable housing so desperately needed in our community, as well as compact one-bedroom and studio units appropriate for students, seniors, and singles. This project does include rezoning 10 sites along Soquel Drive and Portola Drive to the ResFlex zone district. These rezonings will be discussed in detail at community meeting number 5. The county also anticipates rezoning additional sites to this zone district as we begin working on the housing element. To support the development of housing choices and multifamily housing, the county is revising residential development standards for higher intensity development. The new ResFlex zone district includes special development standards to support more compact units. For single-family parcels, the minimum lot size is reduced from 3,500 to 2,500 square feet to allow smaller single-family lots with compact residences. Development standards would accommodate a 1,700 square foot dwelling on a 2,500 square foot lot as an example. These smaller lot sizes would be available for future land divisions, providing for more efficient use of the limited land available in our urban areas. To support the development of projects at the upper end of the RM district, which ranges from 11 to 29 units per acre, adjusted standards allow for increases in the floor area ratio, which regulates bulk and mass on a site, and increases in lot coverage, which means the total area of a site that can be covered by structures. 3 stories will also be allowed for these higher density RM projects, which can allow for additional open space and landscaping on a site and also provide area for parking. Residential parking standards are also being revised, which will be reviewed in detail at community meeting number 3. While adjusting development standards to support higher intensity housing, we are retaining standards which provide for compatibility with the neighborhood context and with single-family neighborhoods. This includes continuing to require open space for residential projects, maintaining the existing 15-foot front yard setbacks, maintaining setbacks between properties for multifamily zones. Standards for the new ResFlex zone district allow heights up to 40 feet and allow for a slightly reduced front setback and increased floor area ratio to allow for higher intensity development necessary to support additional compact units on a site. To ensure quality projects, the county has developed new design guidelines. These guidelines provide best practices for the design of building and sites, including gathering places, quality open space and landscaping, and green building and site design features. The guidelines provide a flexible approach, allowing for creative designs and diverse architectural styles that meet design goals. The guidelines provide overarching guidance, as well as guidance specific to different land uses, including multifamily development. So as seen in the slide, the design guidelines include diagrams of sites, building elevations, and perspective drawings with photos and examples showing how these design concepts can be met in various ways. The guidance for the design of multifamily sites ensure that multifamily projects respect the scale, style, and character of the existing context. Parking is required to be located in the rear or middle of the site when feasible to maintain residential character and provide an attractive streetscape. Landscaping and trees are required within front setback areas, and required open space is encouraged within the front setbacks, which contribute to the neighborhood feel. Projects in residential neighborhoods are encouraged to complement existing front yard depths. Projects are required to provide direct entrances to individual units from the streets where feasible, complementing the single-family character of neighborhoods and also providing more attractive streetscapes along corridors. For the building design, the design principles are intended to maintain a human scale. Varying wall planes help to identify individual buildings and break up larger buildings. An additional setback is required from the property line for any third story, which will help reduce massing and provide appropriate transitions to lower intensity residential development. Design details such as varied building materials, balconies, and awnings add further interest and character. Guidance for building form addresses compatibility with adjacent residential sites. Techniques include locating the tallest portions of the building in the center of the site and tapering heights down to the property lines, using pitched roofs and changes in roof and wall heights. These approaches can be seen in illustrations and photos on the slide. Using these design approaches, one can often not tell from the street how many dwellings are in a particular building, as each building can read as a single-family dwelling. For example, the buildings in the top illustration on the right could be individual townhouses or could include separate units on each floor. This is also true for the building in the photo on the top left. And the photo of the blue building on the left could easily be a larger single-family dwelling, but in fact includes 4 separate apartment units. So before moving on to a review of non-residential development, we're interested in your input on strategies presented today for addressing the housing challenges facing our community. And we have a polling question that we will bring up for you. A moment.
Yeah, so here is the first poll that we'll be sending your way. I just wanted to give everyone a chance to read it first. So the question is, which attainable housing development strategies do you support? Based on the few that we just reviewed with Annie. And the options that we have here are small lot single family homes, duplexes and other missing middle infill housing, regulations to encourage more construction of apartments and condos in multifamily zone districts, and the new residential flex zone district. So I will launch this poll. It should pop up on your screen. And I just wanted to note that this poll is only available for folks who are joining us on Teams. So if you're joining by phone, unfortunately, you will not be able to submit the poll.
All right. And respondents can choose more than one choice, right?
Oh, it is not set up that way, but we can make it set up that way.
Oh, that was the idea. Okay.
But yeah, if it's just one choice that you can choose, I would choose your favorite strategy that Annie went over.
And I will start sharing responses. Here we go. Okay. Looks like we've got responses coming in, about 20 now. And the top sort of strategy that folks are voting for seems to be the new residential flex zone district.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Okay, we'll give folks another moment. See if we get any new responses.
Last call. Okay. Yep, I think that's about it. So it looks like we're landing on 20 responses, and we've got 13 supporting the new residential zone flex zone district. And the second option is the regulations to encourage more, I'm not able to read the full, to encourage more construction of apartments and condos in the multi-family zone district. And then the third is duplexes and other missing middle infill housing. So great. Thank you, everyone. And then the next poll that we'd like your feedback on is a little bit of information about you. So we'd like to know whether you are a homeowner or a renter here in Santa Cruz. Let me just launch that poll right now. Okay, does everyone see that? Great. So select the response that best describes your housing situation. And it looks like we're getting some results. I know there's at least 20 of you out there. So, okay, great. It looks like we've gotten all 20 responses, and 15 of the folks joining us today are homeowners, and we have 5 renters. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the engagement. Helps give us good feedback. Okay, I'm going to reshare my screen and continue on with the presentation. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right. Just a moment. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so in terms of non-residential development, the policies and regulations in the sustainability update aim to encourage vibrant activity centers within focused growth areas. Some activity centers may be focused on employment or school, such as Cabrillo College or the Soquel Drive Medical Center area. Other activity centers may be focused on community gathering or shopping and entertainment, such as Lower 41st Avenue and Portola Drive in Pleasure Point. In order to create, maintain, and improve activity centers, it's important to prioritize ground floor consumer-facing businesses, such as restaurants and retail, paired with office and residential land uses, so that workers and residents can walk to local businesses. Service commercial and light industrial businesses that have few workers and require large site areas and truck traffic should be located outside of activity centers. However, it's still important to allocate enough land in the county to support service commercial and industrial businesses, given the key role that they play in the local economy. The sustainability update also seeks to address the jobs housing imbalance, whereby many people who can afford to live in the county commute to work over the hill. Policies allowing for more modern, flexible office development can enable the construction of buildings for high-paying job growth sectors such as healthcare and innovation and technology. The project also recognizes the market reality that there is less demand for brick and mortar retail these days, given the increase in e-commerce over the past decades, which has only accelerated with the pandemic. Standalone retail developments and even many mixed-use residential and commercial developments are not financially feasible to develop in today's market generally. Given this reality, policies in the sustainability update allow for more flexibility in mixed-use development and also encourage the rebranding of shopping centers to focus on in-person experiences such as gyms and community events rather than just shopping. Policies also encourage visitor accommodations such as hotels and motels to locate within activity centers and serve a range of visitor price points. Overall, the non-residential policies in the general plan aim to increase economic vitality for Santa Cruz County, and these policies are aligned with the county's economic vitality study, which was adopted in 2014. So with that policy basis in mind, I'll review some key highlights in terms of changes to regulations and guidelines for non-residential development. So first, let's look at non-residential land use designations and zone districts. This table indicates all of the non-residential urban land use designations in the general plan and the associated zone districts that implement those land use designations. The only change proposed to these existing designations and zone districts is the introduction of a new Workplace Flex C3 zone district, which is highlighted, which would allow for a wider range of commercial uses than is usually allowed within a single commercial zone district. In particular, this zone district would enable the development of employment centers with a mixture of office, commercial, manufacturing, and research-oriented uses. as well as ancillary retail and services. Parcels with land use designations of community commercial, professional office, or service commercial light industrial would all be eligible for rezoning into the C3 district. Note that no parcels are actually proposed to be rezoned into the Workplace Flex District as part of the Sustainability Update project, but with the creation of this district, property owners will now have the option of applying for rezoning into the district. And taking a little bit of a closer look at Workplace Flex, the proposed standards for this district are similar to other commercial districts, except that the overall building height may be up to 50 feet rather than 40 feet, and a first-story floor-to-ceiling height of at least 15 feet is required. The purpose of these regulations is to allow for maximum commercial use flexibility inside the building. A conceptual site design for Workplace Flex development is indicated on this slide, along with images of what interior spaces and streetscape design might look like. Flexible workplaces can accommodate a mix of office, light industrial, and retail uses for large businesses, such as a tech company that includes both office and research and development, or these buildings can also house groups of small businesses, such as at the repurposed sash mill in the city of Santa Cruz. Chapter 6 of the County Design Guidelines is focused on Workplace Flex and provides best practices for building siting, design, and massing. And another key proposed change to the non-residential regulations in the county code is the introduction of special standards and guidelines for mixed use, residential, and commercial development, including both vertical mixed use, where residential units are stacked on top of commercial, and horizontal mixed use, where residential units are located on the same site as a commercial development, but in a separate building. On this slide, conceptual site plans and example projects are shown for both vertical and horizontal mixed use. As you can see from the examples, mixed use projects come in all shapes and sizes. In the existing county code, there are not special standards for mixed use development, and as a result, commercial standards are always applied, which is not always appropriate for the residential units. So new standards have been added for density, open space, and setbacks that are appropriate in a mixed-use context. Chapter 5 of the Design Guidelines is dedicated to mixed-use developments with consideration for site and building design and appropriate transitions to residential neighborhoods. The sustainability update also includes new regulations for hospitals and medical mixed-use developments, reflecting the unique needs of these development types and the county's goal of maintaining and further developing a healthcare employment center along the Soquel Drive corridor in Live Oak. These projects should be located on large sites zoned for public facilities in areas where a concentration of medical services and commercial activity is planned, and should combine the development of hospitals, medical offices, and clinics, along with complementary land uses such as retail, restaurants, and commercial services. And also various types of high-density housing. Medical mixed-use standards include a maximum of 60 feet, 4 stories, rather than the usual 3-story height for other non-residential uses, in order to accommodate hospital programming, elevators, and mechanical equipment. Lot coverage is also higher than what is usually allowed in the PF district to accommodate buildings and parking garages. There are some additional updates to allowed land uses, development standards, and guidelines in non-residential zone districts that align with modern practice and state laws and further implement the non-residential policy goals that I discussed at the beginning of this section. In order to facilitate appropriate neighborhood commercial development, smaller commercial parcels are allowed, and commercial buildings adjacent to residential neighborhoods must be set back from property lines. Upper stories, starting with the 3rd story, must be set back even further, ensuring that buildings maintain a human scale and alleviating potential privacy and shadow impacts to neighbors. In order to facilitate vibrant activity centers and commercial corridors, The code amendments include reductions in use permit requirements for small businesses, as well as requirements for active commercial uses such as retail and restaurants on ground floors along multimodal corridors and main streets. Also, the overall building height in commercial zone districts other than workplace flex has been increased from 35 to 40 feet in order to accommodate more spacious ground floors. In addition, streetscape standards and guidelines have been added to encourage the creation and maintenance of streetscape amenities. Appendix A of the County Design Guidelines provides streetscape guidelines for each major corridor type. A Main Street illustration from that appendix is provided on this slide. And then finally, commercial and industrial land uses and definitions have been updated and modernized. Also, maximum floor area ratio has been added for non-residential districts in order to meet the new state law requirement to have a measure of building intensity for all land uses. However, these FAR numbers have been set such that they are not anticipated to restrict opportunities for non-residential building development. Okay, so now we have another poll. This one's on commercial policies and regulations. So let's go ahead and launch that one.
Can you see the poll? Okay, I just wanted to share the question again with you all before you answer the poll. So this question is, which commercial development strategies do you support? And it lists a few of the strategies that Daisy just reviewed with us. So the first one is commercial development supporting vibrant commercial corridors and activity centers, commercial development supporting 15-minute neighborhoods, new regulations for residential commercial mixed-use projects, new regulations for hospitals and medical mixed-use projects, and the new workplace flex zone district. And this one, you are able to select multiple options. So select all of the commercial development strategies that you support. And here is the poll coming your way. Let me know if you're able to see it. And as a reminder, this is only available to folks who are joining us here on Teams, and unfortunately not available to people joining from by phone today. And I'll give everyone a chance to submit their responses. Again, select all that apply for this question. Great, we're seeing some come in. I'll give you guys a few more minutes.
Looks like we're seeing pretty equal support for all of the measures, which indicates to me that most respondents are supportive of most of the measures that we discussed. The highest number, right, being for commercial development along activity corridors and activity centers. And it looks like we have the lowest level of support for the medical mixed use regulations that I discussed, which is also the highest building height that we would have in our code. So that's understandable, and happy to answer questions about that as well as we get into Q&A.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm going to dive back into the presentation. Okay. All right. So we just wanted to touch also on several geographic areas where specific building regulations are appropriate. In our towns, villages, and special communities with special area plans, development projects need to follow those plans. And places with special area plans include the county's historic towns and villages, as well as some other communities and corridors that are indicated on the map on the left of this slide. And this map is also in Chapter 2 of the general plan. No changes are proposed to any existing plans. A new set of standards and guidelines has been added for the Pleasure Point commercial corridor based on the 2018 planning study that was completed for this corridor. The corridor includes Portola Drive and Lower 41st Avenue. Development standards for the corridor are provided in the Commercial Zone District portion of the County Code, and guidelines are provided as an appendix to the County Design Guidelines. These standards and guidelines serve to implement a vision for the corridor as a vibrant and eclectic community gathering place with buildings that have varied architectural styles, compatible with local character, and attainable workforce housing. As Annie mentioned, there are parcels that are proposed for rezoning into the new RF zone district along this corridor. To learn more about the rezones, please attend community meeting number 5 on April 20th. And then 2 other geographic areas that have special policies and regulations include the coastal zone, shown on the map on the upper right of this slide, as well as the Watsonville Airport influence area shown in the map on the lower right. In the coastal zone, no substantive change is proposed to policies and regulations, except to add more flexibility, allowing for land uses with lower priority in the Coastal Act, such as housing, to be located on sites that are otherwise designated for higher priority coastal uses in certain situations. And then no substantive change is proposed to the Watsonville Airport influence area as part of the sustainability update, aside from streamlining certain policies in the general plan. And then we also would like to talk about environmental justice, which is a new topic area that must be incorporated into general plans in California. Environmental justice means equitable protection from environmental and health hazards for everyone. County staff have chosen to address this topic throughout the general plan rather than as a specific chapter. Environmental justice themes that are addressed in the general plan include pollution exposure and air quality, equitable access to public facilities, food, safe and sanitary homes, physical activity, community engagement, and improvements and programs that address disadvantaged communities, which are identified in the map on the lower right of this slide. Policies, regulations, and guidelines related to the built environment address these environmental justice themes through coordinated land use and transportation planning, as well as 15-minute walk sheds from urban neighborhoods to grocery stores, community services, and physical activity opportunities, preservation and creation of safe and attainable housing options, especially for our lower income residents, buffering of neighborhoods from industrial land uses and associated pollution, sustainable building features that reduce water and energy use and improve moisture control and ventilation, safe and accessible streetscape design, street trees and other urban greening strategies, priority of service and infrastructure allocation to disadvantaged communities, and the addition of new outreach and engagement policies in the general plan that prioritize community partnerships and widen the circle of people engaged in planning in Santa Cruz County. And then now we wanted to take a moment to go over the timeline for the project. The draft general plan amendments, county code amendments, design guidelines, and map amendments were made available on the project website at the end of February and are available for public review. You can review and comment on these documents throughout the public process until the documents are adopted and certified. This evening's meeting is one of a series of community meetings which are scheduled through April 20th. The draft environmental impact report is scheduled to be released in the next several weeks and will be open for public comment for at least 45 days. Topics in the EIR that are particularly relevant to the built environment include aesthetics, land use, and population and housing. The Planning Commission, as well as other county commissions with an interest in the project, will hold study sessions in the spring and summer. After these study sessions, a final EIR will be released, which will address public comments received on the draft EIR. At the same time, updated versions of project documents may also be released. Public hearings at the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors are scheduled to begin in August and be held through November. After adoption at the Board of Supervisors, most amendments will need to go on to the Coastal Commission for certification. And this slide just shows the schedule of the community meetings that we are holding. After tonight's presentation, there will be additional meetings held on the topics of transportation, agriculture, resources, and public facilities, and code modernization and map amendments. All of these meetings will be virtual. All right, so that concludes the presentation, and we've left some time for questions and discussion. To make a comment, if you're using a computer, you may type your comment or question into the meeting chat box, or you may raise your hand by clicking on the hand symbol at the top of your screen, choose Raise Hand, and wait to be called on. When the moderator announces your name or phone number, click on the microphone button at the top of your screen to unmute yourself and start speaking. To comment, please state your name and proceed with your comment. At the end of your comment, your microphone will be muted again. If you no longer have a comment or question, you can click on the hand symbol to lower your hand. We'll go through the questions and comments in the chat first, and then go through the raised hands. After that, we'll ask if anyone participating by phone would like to comment. If you wish to comment on the phone, enter *6 to unmute yourself. And in the interest of fairness, we'll try to wait until everyone's had a chance to speak once before allowing folks to speak more than once. There's not an official time limit like there is during a public hearing for public comments, but please do keep comments and questions brief in order to allow everyone a chance to speak. If we aren't able to answer your question or address your comment, you can submit an email directly to the email address on the screen or submit your comment through the project website. While we talk, we've listed some links to various resources available to you. On the project website, you can learn more about the project, review the draft documents, take the project survey, and submit comments on project documents. We highly encourage you to take the project survey because it will be an important tool that is used by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors as they make decisions about the project. Once the draft EIR is released, you will also be able to submit comments on EIR. And if you don't have access to a computer, hard copies of project documents are available for review at 701 Ocean Street on the 4th floor at the planning counter, as well as at the Capitola Library. As I mentioned, you may also email any questions or comments to our team at sustainabilityupdate@santacruzcounty.us. All righty, so that is it for the presentation. And now we will open it up for comments and questions.
Daisy, we had we just enabled the chat, so we may want to start with raised hands. I don't know if people have had a chance to provide comments in the chat yet.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. Let's do raised hands first then, and then we'll proceed to the chat after that.
So the first person we'll take with the raised hand would be Rafa.
Yes, thank you. My name is Rafa Sonnenfeld. My question is, how many additional homes is this sustainability plan expected to contribute to in the county? And will that number satisfy our need to develop over 4,000 new housing units for the 6-cycle RENA, including the 15 to 30% buffer that we need in order to ensure that we have adequate zone capacity to meet our low and moderate housing needs?
Thank you for the question, and I will actually defer to our project leader, Stephanie Hansen, to answer that question, because I know she's got the numbers.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The work on this project has been going on for a few years, and the forecasting that was done for it and for the environmental impact report that'll be coming out shortly was done more than a year ago. So we had an indication that the RENA allocation was going to be higher, as did, all of the other communities in California, but we didn't have an exact number yet. And as you know, I think you were there at the AMBAG board meeting that was kind of finalized. I believe it was January in terms of the methodology that was being sent to the state for review and approval. So this project does not necessarily seek to address all of the housing needs in the upcoming 6th cycle of RENA. We came pretty close, though. I think we estimated the potential growth for 4,500 units. And so we'll be working again after this project is adopted to look at the RENA allocation, the housing needs as we're updating our housing element next year. This project was intended to create the policy and regulatory framework for us to develop as needed in the future. So that was the purpose of this project, not to meet the RENA in particular.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie.
So the
All
next
right, next
person,
question.
that would be Torin. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Tehran, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi. My question was more directed towards the environmental justice section. And I know that the focus of this particular project is long-term planning, but it seems that it's going to be hard to have a vibrant commercial corridor if we don't address the unhoused and the tent communities and the environmental issues, the social, the multi-social welfare issues, like we can't take our kids to certain parts of the county that are completely cut off to the rest of us, and it feels like no one's addressing like the pollution into the San Lorenzo River from the unhoused folk. This isn't, and I say none of this to disparage the situation of the unhoused, okay? But I want to be realistic, and I want us to, as a group, to be realistic. I don't go downtown anymore, specifically because of that. I won't take my kids to certain parks. You know, I don't know what's going on with the Simpkins area anymore, but I'm sure that you all understand what I'm talking about. So my question was basically, I wish that we had some sort of social welfare, social worker hybrid cop, because we need somebody that can help these people get the help they need, and first responders get the job that they weren't really trained for, right? And they're probably overwhelmed. My hope is that there's going to be the creation of another public safety officer that can keep these vibrant commercial and mixed use places available to all of us, because if they get taken over by, new residents living in their cars or whatever, then everything you're doing is going to be wasted, in my opinion. So that's the thing that's mostly concerning to me. Is this is very well done. It's very well thought out. It's beautiful, and the ideas are excellent, but it doesn't matter how many spaces you have if people keep pouring in and there's no way to address that issue. We're a really desirable place to live, and we have limited resources, right? We have limited water, especially in the drought years. We have limited space, and we just, we can't take everybody in that wants to be here. And I'm just wondering how you guys, if you have had a chance to even address that and incorporate how that's going to, contribute to the overall environmental justice, social justice, family justice, fair treatment of residents, etc. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that comment and question. Yeah, it's a huge issue here in Santa Cruz County. I guess what I would start by doing is just providing some clarification regarding the scope of this project. So the general plan is really all about land use policy and transportation policy, and then the implementing, sections of our county code, are implementing those general plan policies. So these documents are not the tools that the county can use to address the major issue of homelessness. However, the county is, addressing homelessness in other ways. Mostly, I believe it's the Health and Human Services Department that is tasked with that. I don't know, Stephanie, if you want to add to that at all.
Thanks, Daisy. Just to say that definitely is an issue. It takes a suite of tools to address this, from law enforcement to social services and to the supply of housing, which is what this project speaks to, is providing enough zoning so we can start, and a range of zoning types so that we can start to get a variety of housing options out there in the world for people. So it's part of the tools that we use as a jurisdiction, although we understand that it's not one tool is going to achieve this goal, and it will take a while, but this is part of that suite that we would use for that.
Great.
Thank you, Daisy.
And there was a phone number with somebody's hand raised, but it looks like they may have lowered their hand. I don't know if that was intentional. If so, you can put your comment in, I think it's *5. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Star 6 to unmute.
*6 to unmute yourself now. It was an 831 number. Okay. I'm not hearing anybody mute themselves, so then we'll go to the next person, which was David Dean.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to present this to us. I'm most excited about the fact that you're incorporating the 15-minute neighborhoods and talking about things that can make a neighborhood more walkable, more friendly to pedestrians and cyclists and people that aren't in automobiles. Living in Live Oak, it's very hard sometimes here in the unincorporated areas. The rules haven't necessarily been consistently enforced, and that they they may not have existed at the time that some of these places were built and things. So sidewalks are really narrow and in a lot of places non-existent. So one of the things that concerns me is this making smaller setbacks. Is that going to mean narrower sidewalks? It's the other issue is that getting to the elementary and secondary schools is very difficult. It's not really safe to cycle or walk to a lot of the schools, and there is no transit and no school buses to get the kids safely to school. So I think that is something that needs to be considered as well. And lastly, all these pictures of the non-residential zone properties and the talk about the parking garages for the medical facilities is very frustrating, because parking just encourages more cars and less transit use, less walking, less cycling. So I really would like the general plan to try to encourage there to be less parking, and especially on places that are along transit corridors, and more frequent transit along those transit corridors. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you for those comments. Anais, do you want to address this start us off by addressing this question? Anais Schenk is our transportation specialist in our group.
Sure. Hi. So you should really come to next week's meeting. First of all, I'd love to have you there. We'll be talking about what's called the access and mobility element, now formerly the circulation element, where we will address a lot of these issues. While the county doesn't have direct jurisdiction over transit, that's handled by the Metro Transit District. We do have a lot of policies that we hope will support the use of transit by addressing first and last mile issues through active transportation, bicycling and walking. to get at your question regarding reduced setbacks and whether or not that'll affect sidewalks, Live Oak is kind of an older area. It was developed in a very patchwork way. So there's a lot of places out there that used to be kind of ranches or orchard or kind of estate style development. So they weren't really developed with sidewalks. The county actually already has standard design criteria in place that requires sidewalks when somebody goes to develop a property. We have also, unfortunately, had in place for quite a while an exception to those design standards. And one of the things that we're doing in the sustainability update is eliminating one route for those exceptions that has been often utilized by developers. Not so much for like a single family lot development, but in like the sense of a townhouse style development. So I'm trying to answer your question a little quickly because I know we're short on time, but I would really encourage you to come to next week's meeting. I'll also be talking about the parking reductions that we're proposing for mainly for residential uses. There are some parking reductions proposed for other uses as well.
Great. Thank you, Anais. Yeah, and then one other thing I would add to that is regarding the sidewalks. We also have, as part of this project, these new concepts of kind of streetscape amenity zones and activity zones and sidewalk zones, and we are including in our guidelines, our design guidelines, requirements for different widths for these areas that are appropriate for different types of roadways. So that issue is being addressed within the confines of, the existing situations with our roadways. So thank you for that question. All right, who have we got next on the list?
So next we have Jane Royer Barr.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my concerns. I'm Jane Barr with Eden Housing, an affordable housing developer. And these are specific points. When you talked about the new residential flex, 40 feet and 3 stories, I just think that's not high enough. I've got a project in Watsonville that's 3 stories on just under 2 acres, and it's getting 53 units on it to get the parking, and we've got to go higher in these neighborhoods that are more urban. So secondly, I didn't see anything on the required parking. Is the parking going to be reduced other than in other through density bonus? And then in the neighborhood context, you talked on one of the slides, you talked about doing something development within the neighborhood context. And I wonder how that's going to be objective, because you can't have subjective ideas here anymore. It's got to be objective. And finally, yeah, I did talk about the parking standards. So, and then on the medical, I fully support that. We have land that's available here, and it's got to be a high, and we've got to go denser. And every time we talk about density, I don't think people think about what that does for us. And density of mixed use, that cuts down our traffic. When you have people living on site with office uses and other uses, that is a deterrent to traffic, and that's certainly what we need. Well, finally, I do remember the last thing. You showed, I hope you're not, and maybe I misunderstood this, but you showed roofs and you showed peaked roofs, and I hope that's not being dictated, because that makes it very hard to do solar on a rooftop. It's more expensive. It doesn't work as well for multifamily housing projects. So, and if you don't do it, then you have to put it on the land, and you lose land. So to make this work, we really need to have the ability to do different roof structures.
Great, thank you so much for those comments and questions. Let's see. Annie, do you want to start us off on answering, and I can chime in?
Sure. Can people hear me okay? I'm having some sound issues on my end. Okay, yep. Great. Let's see. So we appreciate the feedback on, recommending more than 40 feet or 3 stories. I think we were sort of responding to sort of our existing neighborhood fabric and character, and we are also anticipating that for some of these projects, the applicant would be applying for density bonuses to be able to have increased height and stories, but I appreciate that feedback. And we are planning to reduce parking for residential standards. Just a few examples for multifamily, we'd be moving towards one space for units up to 750 square feet and with 20% guest parking, and units larger than 750, 2 spaces plus 20% guest, and that's a reduction from our current standards, which require 2 spaces for 1 bedroom, 2.5 spaces for 2 to 3, and 3 for 4+ bedrooms. So, and then there are additional reductions if people are located within a transit priority area.
Can I just comment before you move on?
Sure.
That guest parking kills us. That absolutely kills us. We have done projects. I used to be with MidPenn. We did projects for the county, and we were allowed to not put all the guest parking in, but maintain the open area that it could be converted. We didn't need it, and it just takes up space. And you know, a lot of the density bonuses is a half parking space per unit, or it's 1 parking space per unit now, and 2. And I think it's curious to tying it to the square footage, which might encourage smaller units. Then again, tax credits have a certain required square footage per unit. So I think we should have another discussion about that at some other time.
Okay, yeah, and we will be going into the parking requirements in more detail at the transportation meeting. So I encourage you to come to that as well. This is just kind of a quick peek, but and let's see, in terms of the peaked roof, that's definitely not a requirement. The design guidelines are intended to sort of provide a range of options for accomplishing different design goals. So that was sort of an example of one way you might be able to sort of ensure compatibility with an adjacent site, but it's definitely not a requirement for projects. And in terms of neighborhood context, that is, the guidelines are largely subjective. So for projects that are subject only, you know, under state law only to objective design standards, basically those design guidelines wouldn't apply, but we do have objective development standards that would continue to apply to projects.
Yeah, and I would just add, like, one example of that would be like setbacks for projects adjacent to different types of zone districts, right? So if you have, for instance, a new project that's adjacent to a single family zone district, there may be a larger setback that you would have to provide to that adjacent property. Okay, great.
So I think we're going to take 2 more hands and then move to the chat because there's some lingering questions, comments in there.
Sounds good.
So the next person is Jan Stokely.
Good evening. I'm Jan Stokely with Housing Choices. We're a housing nonprofit serving people with disabilities from an office in Watsonville. So we're very, very familiar, up close and personal, with the housing crisis and how it affects people with disabilities who are primarily extremely low income. So I wanted to applaud all the great work you've done and join my colleague Jane Boyer-Barr in saying we need to push for more units per acre along these corridors where there is transit access, shopping, and services that's really needed by people with disabilities. To respond to the earlier guest who talked about homelessness, our experience is the #1 factor creating homelessness is the lack of deeply affordable housing. And so if you're going to address homelessness in Santa Cruz County, you need to make sure that the sustainability plan gives you the option to create the number and kind of units that people on very, 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 very low incomes can afford. So I want to thank you for all the work and push towards more multifamily units along those corridors. And push the height and the density so that we can, reduce homelessness and help people with disabilities have a safe and secure home in the community they grew up in. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comment.
Okay, and we have one more raised hand. It looks like Alex Vartan.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Hi, thanks. Thanks again for all your really hard work on this process. I'm wondering if you can add a little color and maybe you can speak to the process by which these changes to density controls and as well as the height limits were determined, maybe in comparison to either processes in decades past or maybe more relevant to to other jurisdictions in California. Given just the scarcity of well-resourced developable land in this county and across the state, I'm also surprised how low the floor area ratio still are, even with these changes. And I may be mistaken, but I don't even think the city of Santa Cruz, and I know certainly other jurisdictions, don't even use floor area ratio at all. I think as a density control, they use maybe some of the other parameters that could be more relevant in certain cases. And I would also just like to echo other comments in that I still think the height limit is still really really too low on these corridors. Just again, given the scarcity of land, we're talking about these changes. The last time the general plan was changed, I guess, is in 1994, and the world is completely different. And I certainly understand the desire to create compatible development with what we already have, but to only see a 5-foot, I think, increase in the height limit over that 27 intervening years, I think is disappointing. Even taking into account the state density bonus laws that may relax some of these constraints. So I would just like to sort of again maybe hear a little more about the details and how these parameters were sort of decided, especially with respect to height and other density controls. So thanks again, appreciate it.
Great, yeah, thank you. And I think maybe I'll start us off, and then Stephanie or Annie, if you want to chime in as well. But let's see. The main genesis for the policies in this project was the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, which was a visioning study that was done between 2012 and 2014 and involved extensive community outreach. And the ideas for the residential flex district, as well as the mixed use medical, workplace flex, and several other policy changes that we talked about today, are all ideas that came out of that community process. So I would begin to answer your question by saying this is the feedback that we got from the community about what was wanted here, and what would be what would work here within this community. And then it sounds like you're familiar with the density bonus, state density bonus program. But I would just add that, for instance, for the residential flex district, what we're proposing is a base density of 45 dwelling units per acre. This is considerably higher than our existing highest base density, which is 17.4 units per acre. And this is a base density, so an individual applicant could potentially get a density bonus on top of that of up to 50 to 80%. So there is potential for construction of additional units, as well as relaxing of certain development standards that are allowed with waivers and concessions under the density bonus system. So that's how I would start us off. I don't know if Stephanie or Annie have anything to add there.
Yeah, I would just like to add specifically regarding the residential flex zone district with the 40-foot, 3-story height limit. We worked very closely with local architect Matthew Thompson in developing these standards, and he provided, we did analysis of county sites as well as he provided an analysis of other projects he worked on, was familiar with in terms of developing what seemed to be reasonable site standards that would promote the development of more compact units, because we are trying to keep the units fairly compact to avoid people building 4,000 square foot, condos in these res flex zone districts, but also being able to support the density. So we developed those standards in mind with Matthew Thompson after some in-depth analysis.
Great.
Okay, so unless there's more to answer there, I think we can move to the chat.
Okay.
Yes, so just considering that we're going to prioritize folks that haven't spoken yet. So the first comment that I will share here is from John Swift, who says, it's good to see that the percent of residential space in mixed-use projects is being considered for an increase to 75%, a significant increase from the present unfeasible percentage of 50%. However, this should be considered for all commercial zones. I also feel that 75% is too low in many cases. The idea of continuous commercial corridors that extend for miles is unrealistic. Commercial space should be greater focused in areas that are densely developed, not spread out over miles of marginal commercial strips. Outside of these commercial nodes, we should allow higher percentage of residential uses.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that comment. And I would just add that for a density bonus project, so a mixed use project that qualifies for a density bonus, one of the options is to increase your percentage of residential square footage beyond what's allowed in the zoning code. So again, that would be another option for a project that qualified for a density bonus. And one thing that we did want to do with these standards is make sure that the density bonus program was still very attractive to developers because that does serve to increase our affordable units in the county. Thank you very much for the comment.
Great. And then the next comment is from Michael Mora. How much housing is held by offshore investors? How much multifamily housing is used for temporary rentals, such as Airbnbs?
Well, I don't know the answer to the first question. For the second question, I can say that we have a short-term rental program for vacation rentals where you can rent your whole house, or hosted rentals where you can rent a room in your house. And both of those programs have caps to them, especially within certain really popular beach areas for the purpose of preserving housing for the use of, as permanent housing rather than short-term rentals. So
Great.
we do have some controls in place regulating for that.
And the next comment is from Ernesto Anguiano. I agree on the parking. The best way to get people out of their cars is to build the infrastructure to allow them to get out of their cars. The rail and trail seems like a good solution. Did you want to provide any response there, or I can move on to the next comment?
No, just that yep. Come to the transportation meeting next week and chat more about it.
Great. And the next comment is from Diana Alfaro, who agreed with Jane Royer Barr on the guest parking standards and would urge that we have development standards for affordable housing. Our funding sources will not pay for parking. And then I believe the rest of the comments are provided by folks who have already spoken, so I'm not sure if there's any raised hands. If not, I can kind of cycle back through the comments for folks who have already provided questions or comments.
There's no additional raised hands here, so you can go through those.
Okay, great. So the first, kind of circling back, the first comment we have is from Rafa, who agrees with encouraging less parking. We should be eliminating parking minimum requirements near transit. And also noted that they did not select the medical option because it didn't seem tall enough. 4-story hospitals seem way too small, and if we want more vibrant communities better connected to transit, we shouldn't be building huge sprawling hospital campuses. We should have more urban connected medical facilities. We have several more comments from folks who have already spoken. I'm not identifying any questions, so if you'd like, I continue reading the comments.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So Rafa also noted that we have to plan for 2,468 low and very low income units to be built in the 6th cycle of the housing element, and that those would have to be done with at least 20 units per acre and probably much higher than that to be feasible. We have an additional comment from John Swift. Oh, here's a question. What exception to road standards is being eliminated? Current road standards are generally much too wide. Narrow streets encourage slower traffic speeds. Many local streets do not need sidewalks, and multi-use of narrow streets results in slower traffic when designed appropriately, and Harper Street is a prime example.
So there's basically two that are being eliminated. One has to do with, to summarize it, if my neighbor didn't do it, then I shouldn't. And then the other has to do with a process that allows you to apply for and not build a portion of the standard elements that are typically required in a right-of-way. So the standard elements being the vehicle lane, the curb and gutter, the sidewalk, and the landscaping strip. And I did that a little bit out of order, but sometimes a developer will ask for, because of a constrained right-of-way, an exception to not have to build a sidewalk, and in order to fit 2 vehicle lanes, as well as on-street parking. So again, I will go more into this, especially now that I know that there's going to be questions about it. I will go more into this next week's meeting.
Great. And if that is, Daisy, did you want to provide any additional comment, or is that sufficient?
No, that's
Great.
good.
So the next question we have is from Ernesto Anguiano. Everyone seems to be for more density and housing near transit. Are those corridors the SoCal and Portola corridors? And is the transit being referenced the rail and trail, or what transit options are they referring to? A lot of transportation questions tonight.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll just briefly say that the sustainability update includes a new kind of layered transportation network framework, whereby on certain streets, certain transportation modes are prioritized over others. And then on multimodal corridors, such as SoCal Drive, that's where kind of all different modes are allowed, and including and transit is prioritized along with other modes of transportation. And as Anis mentioned, the county, doesn't have jurisdiction over transit, but we do have a lot of policies in our general plan and related to transit and working with other agencies. That's certainly part of our practice. Anis, I don't know if you want to add anything to that briefly.
Yeah, I'll just nuance that to say that we don't have jurisdiction over the rail corridor, however it gets built out. So there's definitely a lot of planning being done to connect bicycle and pedestrian facilities to the rail corridor. However that gets built out. We recently just completed an active transportation plan that was project managed by the Department of Public Works and Ecology Action. So that's actually available on the Powered by Me website. I'd encourage you to check it out. There's a lot of information there about bicycle and pedestrian projects that we've identified throughout the county. And you'll see that we are looking at helping to connect to that corridor better through bicycle and pedestrian projects.
Great, thank you, Anais.
And there's a few more comments and I believe one more question if you'd like me to continue reading.
Sure, we have a few minutes left, so we can fill that time with whatever questions are left there.
Great. So there's a couple of comments. So Jan Stokely mentioned requested to please join other jurisdictions in reducing parking requirements for housing for people with disabilities. And there was also another question kind of again on the transit corridor, that there was a slide that showed the existing transit corridors, Soquel Drive 1 and the rail corridor was not shown. Again, just like Daisy was saying, we encourage you to join us next week to learn more about our transportation plans included in this project. And Jane Royer Barr mentioned that we need to encourage market rate developers as well as not just affordable housing developers, and asks if there's a plan to start lowering the caps on vacation rentals. I believe it's capped at 25%. If those units were available for full-time residents, our rents could be lower and we could have less homeless people. And that's it.
Okay, so the question regarding the vacation rentals, I'm not sure I understood that. So the cap is on the number of vacation rentals that we allow, not the number of housing units. And I don't believe there's any plan to change that because those numbers were just updated last year by the Board of Supervisors through a long kind of public process that occurred. So I believe the caps as they're set now, I wouldn't expect them to change a lot over the next several years.
And David Reed added to the chat that the Coastal Commission rejected attempts by the Board of Supervisors to further reduce the cap. Right. And that's it.
All right, great. Okay, well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. We really appreciate all of the engagement. And we encourage you to visit the Sustainability Update website, learn more about the project, make comments, send us questions through the project email, and answer the survey. And of course, attend upcoming meetings, especially the transportation meeting next week. It sounds like there'll be a lot of interest in that one. So thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, everybody.